Moadim lesimcha, everybody. Today, first day of Chol HaMoed Sukkot, the 17th of Tishrei, corresponding to the 16th of October 2019. The Lighthouse live video feed sponsorship le'ilui nishmat Deborah Feige Bat Shemuel, Ora Deborah Bat Shemuel, Amenamehem Mendel Ben El Hanan. The iTorah.com sponsorship of today, Shidduch for Shlomo Ben Tzvi, as well as Shidduch for Nehamadina Bat Hanabatia, Sarah Simcha Bat Sofi, Rachel Penina Bat Jenny, and Eliyahu Haim Ben Esther. Today, we'd like to discuss for a few moments the topic of the Ushpizin. The Ushpizin, as we know, are the spiritual guests that come and visit us every night of Sukkot. And the Zohar Kadosh writes, and it says, the moment that a person sits in the Sukkah, he has the merit of being embraced and welcomed by the holy presence of Hashem in the Sukkah, supported additionally by the 7 guests. Ushpizin in Aramaic means guest. Who are we referring to? Abraham, Ishaq, Yaakov, Moshe, Aharon, Yosef, and David. Today, the 3rd day of Sukkot, it corresponds to Yaakov Avinu. But since we did not record the class for Yom Tov, we are going to speak for a short few moments about Abraham, Ishaq, and then we devote a large percentage of the class in honor of Yaakov Avinu. Because we must know, the Tur writes that the celebration of Sukkot, it's all about Yaakov. The celebration of Pesach, it's about Abraham Avinu. The celebration of Shavuot, it's about Ishaq Avinu because of the shofar. And the celebration of Sukkot is all about Yaakov Avinu. As the Pasuk says, Vayelech Esav Se'ira, Yaakov Nasa Sukkota. Esav went to Seir, and Yaakov went to a place called Sukkot. The Pasuk also says, Ulmiknehu Asa Sukkot. Also for his sheep, Yaakov Avinu built a sukkah, and we'll discuss that once we get to the life of Yaakov Avinu. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Shehakol Nihiya Bidbaro. Amen. For those watching, the sound and the lack of a sound system might make it a bit different than it usually is, but we're trying to upgrade the volume in a few moments. Feel free to sit next to me, free admission here. It's fine. So let's talk, first of all, the idea of the Ushpizin. So it says the Zohar Kadosh, the Pasuk writes that the Ushpizin are come to the gate of the Sukkah, and the halakha is, and that's our tradition, that we stand in the front of the Sukkah and we say special prayers which are found in the Mahzor. One of these prayers is, Ulu Ushpizin Ilain Kaddishin. We welcome the Ushpizin to come into our Sukkah. The Zohar Kadosh writes, similarly, like in the day of a Berit Milah, we put a chair and we say, this is the chair of Eliyahu and Navi. Also, when it comes to the Ushpizin, we should have every night of the holiday one chair in honor of the Ushpizin. I had it here. Not every table, but my table had one extra chair on behalf of the entire Kahal, and it's important that we say these words because this is the welcoming aspect into the Sukkah. And every night of Sukkot, the different Ushpizin bless us accordingly. Let's discuss very briefly about Abraham Avinu alav shalom. Abraham Avinu, the founding father of Am Israel. Abraham Ish HaChesed, Zera Abraham Ohavi. Abraham Avinu alav shalom represents the concept of kindness. Interesting enough, comes the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah and asks the following question: what is greater, kindness or charity? The Gemara concludes, kindness is greater than charity. Why? So the Gemara explains, charity is usually done with money. Charity is usually given to a needy person, to a poor person, and charity is given to a person that is alive. Yet, on the other hand, Hesed, you can do Hesed not only with money, you can do Hesed with your words. You can do Hesed with your car. You can do Hesed with your vehicle. You give somebody a ride. You help somebody cross the street. You give somebody a loan. All this is not is not considered tzedakah. All this is considered hesed. And we all know the very famous pasuk that says, Olam hesed ibbaneh. One of the pillars of the world that keeps the world alive and well is the whole idea of hesed. So the Gemara concludes, you can do hesed bediburo. You give someone a word of encouragement. You say to someone, I'm very proud of you. Congratulations. You outdid yourself. These words, even though they may be simple, but to the ears of the recipient, it's like you gave them life again. Number one, giving a loan. Giving a loan is not charity. Giving a loan, you can give a loan to a wealthy person even. Let's say a wealthy person says, guess what? I have a deal that I need to make. I'm short 250,000. What's the cost of the deal? 2 million. And I'm short only $250,000. To you, to me, sound, wow, 2 million, you're poor. In this case, this fellow, the Gemara says, is poor because he's missing the 250,000. Obviously, you know, when we are in that level, you know, not only that, then hesed. You can do hesed not only to someone that is alive. We do hesed even with the dead. For example, we say Kaddish in memory of someone. We say Ashkava. We donate the Seudah. We light a candle. We give charity. All these actions that we do, who benefits from this action? The neshama of the person that is no longer among the living. Yet, if I want to give charity to a dead person, Mark and Moshe, can I give charity to a dead person? No, right? So we understand, right? So we understand that when it comes to a charity, it's only to a needy person, it's only with money, and it's only with a person that is alive. Kindness with money, with your speech, with your actions, with your body, a person that is alive, a person that is no longer among the living, a needy person, or a wealthy person. Abraham Avinu established the Hesed, as the Pasuk says, Olam Hesed Ibbaneh. The world is built on the pillars of Hesed, as the Mishnah writes in Pirkei Avot, Al Shelosha Devarim Olam Omed. There are three elements that the world must have for its survival. Torah, represented by Yaakov Avinu, Abodah, Ishak Avinu, and Gemilut Hasadim, Abraham Avinu. So this takes care of the short explanation about the life of Abraham Avinu, and this is part of our DNA. The Talmud tells us that part of the DNA of a Jew is Rahmanim, Baishanim, Gomble Hasadim. Baishanim means bashful, so to speak. Rahmanim, merciful, and Gomble Hasadim, that we perform act of kindness. This is a basic fundamental element that must exist in the life of every Jew. How many hasadim a person does, that is up to the person. But the more hesed we do, the more kindness and blessing we bring into the world. Let's go to the next night of Sukkot. The second night of Sukkot, we welcomed Ishak Avinu alav shalom. What Ishak Avinu represents? In a way, completely different than Abraham Avinu. Abraham Avinu was hesed, outgoing to everyone. Ishak Avinu teaches us what? Self-discipline, self-control, knowing our limitations, our restrictions. For example, look around you. Please, Mr. Pass the camera around so the audience watching can see what's going on. We are in sunny Florida, 94 degrees probably, correct? And it's not cold, it's a bit hot, and the air conditioning for some reason is not running. And we are sitting in the sukkah, nicely dressed, in honor of the holiday, in order to eat inside of the sukkah. What is the driving force inside of everyone's neshama that we are doing this? We'll be more comfortable, go to the breakfast room, have the air conditioning, have the sound system, and khalas. But yet, what do? No, we understand that I need to leave the comfort of my home and I need to come into the sukkah to fulfill a mitzvah ta'aseh mideoraita, to fulfill a positive commandment of the Torah, with all of the dividends that eating in the sukkah brings upon the person. Every instant that we are in the sukkah, we are fulfilling a mitzvah ta'aseh mideoraita. But let's go even further. Today, we don't put on tefillin. According to the Sephardic tradition, we don't put on tefillin. But there are some Ashkenazi communities that they put on tefillin in Hol HaMoed. But Sephardic don't put on tefillin in Hol HaMoed. Not the majority of the Ashkenazim, the minority. Those who follow the Yeke, those who follow the German tradition, Nusach Ashkenaz. Hasidic world and Nusach Sfard, they don't wear tefillin, but Nusach Ashkenaz, some communities do wear tefillin. Obviously, each person should follow the tradition of their community. But we know very well that we don't step into a non-kosher restaurant. Right. We drive the extra mile and we pay the extra price and we buy kosher food. We know that we don't send our kids to public schools. That's dangerous spiritually. We go the extra mile. We send them to the Talmud Torah. We send them to the yeshiva and we pay tuition. We know that when we buy an apartment, we look first for the knis, and then you buy the apartment. And then, right, that's the way you do. Don't buy the apartment and then look for the shul. Then you're going to get stuck with the apartment. Now, where all that mindset comes from, to spend more money, to go the extra mile, not going to work in Yom Tov, not going to work on Shabbat, the discipline that we have as Yehudim, it all comes from the example of Ishak Avinu, alav shalom. That's why Abraham Avinu represents Midat HaChesed and Ishak Avinu represents Midat HaGevurah. Ishak Avinu is judgment, Ishak Avinu is discipline, Ishak Avinu is self-control and restraint. Like we mentioned the other day, actually yesterday, we mentioned the story with the great Reb Mechel of Zlachov. Reb Mechel of Zlachov was a Hasidic fellow who lived, I think, a generation or two after the Baal Shem Tov. And his father was also a very holy man. And he wanted to have a beautiful etrog for the holiday. But regretfully, he did not have the means to afford it. So then suddenly an idea came to his mind. What was the idea? He had his father's tefillin. His father was also a very holy man. And people were willing to pay an exorbitant amount of money for the father's tefillin. So he makes an announcement on Erev Sukkot, and he says, gentlemen, my father's tefillin is available for sale. The price is 500 rubles. An apparent nice amount in those days in Russia. Okay, he gets the money on the spot, he sold it. He goes to the Synagogue store and he buys a beautiful lulav, etrog, hadas, and arava. And he comes to his home and he starts dancing. And the wife asks him, why are you so happy? Why? We barely have money to make the saudot for the holiday. And you dancing? It says, look at the beautiful etrog that I bought. So when the wife saw the etrog, she asked him, how were you able to afford such a beautiful etrog? He says, what's the big deal? I sold my father's tefillin. When the wife heard this, she said, are you crazy? Your father was a holy man, and you sold a tefillin that is worn 300 days in a year to buy an etrog that is only used 6 days of the year? What is your sechel? She became so upset. What did she do? She beat the etrog. She made the etrog pasul. She broke the pitam. And we know the halacha. If the pitan is broken, is the etrog kasher or no? No. Excellent. So he's about to blow up. He's about to get upset. But then suddenly he says, tefillin I don't have. He sold it.
Yeah, right.
Etrog I don't have. And on top of that, I'm going to get upset? I'm not going to get upset. That night, his father came to him in a dream. And he says, Shamayim was very impressed that you were willing to sell my tefillin in order to buy an etrog. And when they saw that you sold the tefillin without hesitation, they were very pleased. But Shamayim became much happier when they saw you self-control of not getting upset for a mitzvah. Because the Yetzer Hara sometimes plays a game. And that's why the Ben Ish Chai writes, in the night of Rosh Hashanah, and the same halacha is written in Sukkot. The Ben Ish Hai writes in Rosh Hashanah, when you come home from the knis, don't get upset. And even the table is not set up in the proper fashion, it's not worth it to get upset. Why? Because the avon of getting upset is an avon any day of the year. Anger, as the Nachmanides writes, right, in the letter to his son, what does he say to him? Titnahek tamid. Train yourself to speak pleasantly to everyone all the time. Every time, I want to tell you a secret now, please listen well. Every time a person is about to get upset and the person exercises self-control, at that moment, pray for whatever you want, because Shamayim loves the person that is able to avoid anger and explosions and reactions. And in a way, this was the secret of Ishak Avinu alav shalom. Ishak Avinu is the founding father in teaching us discipline. How come nobody's in the work 10:15 on a Wednesday morning? Because you're in Hol HaMoed mode. Because you are in Hol HaMoed mode. And why tefillah took today an hour and a half? And nobody's complaining. I hope so. And you're going to complain after the holiday. Okay? Why? Because we understand. Today is Hol HaMoed, Av Halel, Hoshanot, Hakafot, for Olim, Musaf. So basically, the DNA of Ishak Avinu is about self-control and discipline, which is a mandatory requirement to be an observant Jew. And that's the challenge that perhaps our generation has. Sometimes people experience freedom, don't tell me what to do, especially in the younger generation. I'm not talking about you, God forbid, but you have a lot of people watching and listening, and the new generation needs to understand that the parents, at the end of the day, they want the best for the children. We all agree on that?
100%.
But in your times and in my times, our parents had to look at us and we understood the message.
Oh yeah.
Today,
no
they
more.
tell, what you looking at? What they do? What did they do? Everybody does it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not talking about them. They seem to be wonderful young men. Okay, everyone that stays in the sukkah to listen to the rabbi's class and to Torah, look at the visitor coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, means good people.
Yeah.
But regretfully, the generation outside on the street doesn't understand self-control. Everything goes and everything is permissible. The Torah, first Mishnah in the Pirkei Avot, what does it tell us? Asu seyag la Torah. We need to build fences, like a swimming pool has a fence around, like a balcony has the railing, like a property has a fence. Life as a Jew also must have a fence. Even though that certain things, for example, in the halakha, certain things are permissible. And yet Hachamim came and they made takana. They made a takana. In the Syrian world, if it's the edict against conversion, for example, to prevent assimilation. Guess what? This is not the first time that such a takana was made. If you look in the Shulchan Aruch, the halakha discusses you're not allowed to eat bread baked by a Gentile in their home. You're not allowed to eat food cooked by a Gentile. Why not? Assimilation. Because once you break bread with Goyim, once a person eats with Goyim, gradually, slowly, they start developing a relationship of friendship. You know, I invite you to my house, you invited to my house, send the kids over to play. That's why the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, Haber Tov. We need to make sure that we surround ourselves with good friends, with a good influence. This is the first Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Asu seyag la Torah. Build a fence. You go to the Empire State Building, right? To the observatory. On what floor? 100 and... more or less. I was there 30 years ago. And I remember how many layers of protection were there. One railing, another railing, another railing, another railing. Why? All these are considered safety nets. You want to log in into your bank account online. What do you need to put? Password. You want to check in your mail. What do you need to put? Your password. Why you need a password? Because I'm afraid that my life is going to be hacked. Somebody, God forbid, may steal the identity. This is Ishak Avinu. When a Yehudi has restrictions and self-control, that is our true identity. But if we have the concept of freedom without any restrictions, without any limitations, so what's the difference between us and the people from the street? This is the message of Ishak Avinu.
What about going back to the bread? What about in the restaurant with the non-Jewish cooks?
Excellent question David is asking. What about in a restaurant that it has non-Jewish cook? The short answer is as follows. Every restaurant that has a reliable supervision must have a Jew turning on the fire and, according to the Sephardic tradition, putting the bread, mehila, putting the food on the fire. And all establishments that have a kosher and reliable supervision, they provide something called in Jewish law, Pat Israel. Pat Israel means that a Jew was involved in the baking of the bread. And this circumvents the bread problem that the Shulchan Aruch brings down. In the olden days, the bread, excellent question, David Hazak. The bread was baked in people's homes and used to go to people's homes to pick up the bread. And that created too much of a closeness between the Gentiles and the Yehudim, and the great rabbis came with this takana that is, again, is a fence of protection. And at the end of the day, protection is required in every area of life. With that being said, let's discuss now about Yaakov Avinu. As I said a few moments ago, the celebration of Sukkot, if we need to attribute the celebration of Sukkot to a Tzaddik, is about Yaakov Avinu. As I said before, Shavuot goes to Ishak Avinu. Shavuot is the giving of the Torah. Ishak Avinu is the shofar. When the Torah was given, the shofar was heard. Pesach is about Abraham Avinu, as the pasuk says, Lushi ba'asi ugot. When the Malachim came to visit Abraham Avinu, that was the day of Pesach, and the celebration of Sukkot, it's connected to Yaakov Avinu, alav shalom. The Zohar HaKadosh calls Yaakov Avinu Habehir Sheba Abot, the chosen of Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov. Why did Yaakov Avinu merited to have such a lofty name? The Zohar explains, very simple, Shehaya mitato shelema. All the children of Yaakov Avinu were holy, were tzaddikim. In the case of Abraham, we have Abraham, Ishak, Ishmael. When it comes to Ishak, we have Yaakov and Esav. But when it comes to Yaakov Avinu, Bayu bnei Yaakov shene ma'asar. All the children of Yaakov Avinu, even though some of them had a couple of hiccups, Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yosef, etc. But at the end of the day, when you look through the Perashiot, and especially in the beginning of Sefer Shemot, the Torah is testifying, Ele Shemot Bnei Israel, Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. The Torah, one more time, mentions the names of Yaakov Avinu's children to tell us that each and every one of them was a tzaddik on its own right, on its own merit. Yaakov Avinu represents two different areas of spiritual life. In the world of Sefirot, Sefirot refers to the revelation of Hashem into the physical world. What does it mean? There are 10 Sefirot. Three of them are connected to the intellect of the person. Chokhmah, Binah, Da'at, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Then we have 7 additional emotional Sefirot. The first one, Hesed, Abraham. Second one, Gevurah, discipline, Ishak. The third one, Tiferet, beauty. The next one, Nesach, tomorrow, Moshe Rabbeinu. The day after, Aharon, Hod, Hoda'ah, recognition and gratitude. Yosef is on Shabbat, the 6th day foundation of godliness, and David HaMelech, Hoshana Rabbah, Malchut. Our rabbis tell us that if you look at the Lulav, the Etrog, that's already 2 items. 3 Hadassim, that's 5 items. And 2 Aravot, that's 7 items. These 7, each and every one of them connects to a different Sephirah. plus the 3 rings that we put in the lulav, that gives us 10 sefirot. So even in the aspect of the Arba'at Minim, we have the 10 sefirot. What Yaakov Avinu represented, the Pasuk says in the Navi, Titen emet le Yaakov. Yaakov Avinu was the master of emet. And we have a rule that says, En emet ella Torah. The only truth that exists in the world is the Torah. The Torah is eternal. The Torah doesn't change. The same tefillin we wear today, our parents wore it for 75 years ago. And the same tefillin they wore 500 years ago. The same tefillin all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu. Obviously, with exile, with galut, we have a different traditions, Sephardic tradition, Ashkenazic tradition, but all that is the side effect of being in exile. Be'ezat Hashem, Mashiach comes, Be'ezat Hashem, all that will disappear and will be all united. All abdo b'shechem echad, the Pasuk says, to serve Hashem in a single way. But the Pasuk tells us about Yaakov Avinu. Emet. What's the difference between emet and sheker? Emet means the truth, and sheker means a lie. We have a statement that says, sheker en lo raglaim. Lies has no legs to stand. Why do we say such a thing? I think that the answer is very simple. The word emet, which stands for the word of truth, is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, the Mem, the middle, and the Taf, the final one. So from the beginning to the end is 100% emet. Sheker, the letter Shin, the letter Kof, the letter Resh. These 3 letters are next to each other, and each letter has only one leg to stand on. And that's what we say, sheker en lo raglaim. But the concept of emet, the Pasuk says, emet tikon la'ad. The truth lasts forever. And this is the concept of the Torah. The Pasuk says, Moshe emet, betorato emet. We say the word emet, and that's why we connect Moshe with Yaakov Avinu, where in Simchat Torah, we're going to read the famous Pasuk that says, Torah sivalanu Moshe, morasha kehilat Yaakov. What's the translation of this verse? Torah sivalanu Moshe, the Torah that was commanded to us by Moshe Rabbeinu, morasha. What's the meaning of morasha? The Gemara brings many explanations. Morasha means the inheritance for the Jewish people. Without Torah, a Yehudi cannot survive. And we all know this. We have seen it throughout history, even when our existence was in jeopardy. For example, the celebration of Hanukkah or the celebration of Purim. Okay, we talk about the celebration, but what were some of the decrees against the Jewish people that the Greeks or Haman enacted against our forefathers? Guess what? On top of the list was, do not study Torah, because the Torah is the oxygen for a Jew. Some of the other decrees, don't put on tefillin, don't eat kasher, don't go to the mikveh, don't celebrate Shabbat, don't celebrate Rosh Chodesh, don't celebrate the holidays. I ask you a question. If you don't have none of those, what do you have?
Nothing.
Hazaku Baruch. Guess what? Haman, oh, Mazel Tov. Hello. Okay. I hope I don't have to start the class from the beginning. Louder, please. Make it louder. Testing. Testing. Getting better. Just 1 second. Beautiful. So continuing with the decrees against the Jewish people. The enemies of the Jewish nation knew that if we divorce the Jewish people from Torah learning and some key mitzvot, thank you so much. Welcome back. My throat says thank you.
I gotta hurt you from my apartment.
No, but it's not the same thing live, you know. It's not the same. Being in the apartment, air conditioning is not the same zechut. Every drop of sweat It's tikkun. Thank you so much. Hazao Baruch. I know. So I'm going to go overtime. Haram. I'm not going to finish the class in the next minute. At least the time that he invested fixing the system, right? Beautiful. So this was, in a way, no fría, caliente. Thank you. No. I think it's getting now. Thank you so much. Thank you. So let's continue. So Yaakov Avinu is, by the way, the teacher of survival as a Yehudi. What does it mean? Abraham had challenges, 10 of them. Ishaq had some challenges, but if you follow the story of Ishaq Avinu, his life was limited to Israel. He never left Israel, and he remained most of his life devoted to Hashem. Yaakov, how many challenges he needed to overcome? He needed to overcome birth. Birth. Even on the day, thank you so much, even on the day of his birth, when his mother Rivka was giving birth to him, Esav attempted to kill him. Esav destroyed the reproductive organs of his mother Rivka. This was the violence of Esav. And we see it later on in the Torah, that the Pasuk says how violent, and Esav had the qualifications of a hunter. Okay? And Yaakov, the Pasuk says, Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim. What's the meaning of the word Tam? We mentioned this in the day of Rabbeinu Tam. Tam means wholesome. Tam means perfect. Tam means complete. And Tam means simple. In other words, Yaakov knew no chokhmot. Sometimes people try to take shortcuts in Avodat Hashem. For example, let's discuss Yaakov Avinu life in the house of Lavan. Lavan, the infamous, colorful father-in-law of Yaakov Avinu. Who was Lavan? Was a gangster. I'm sorry to use such a word in the Sukkah. Was a troublemaker. Was a person desperate for money, willing to kill for money. The Torah tells us this when Yaakov Avinu arrived to the house of Lavan. And what does Lavan say? Yaakov came empty-handed. Last time Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, came, he came with 10 slaves, with 10 khadames, with 10 camels, plenty of goodies, plenty of nuts, plenty of snacks, plenty of jewelry. And Yaakov Avinu came, we say in Spanish, una mano atrás, una mano adelante. Yani empty, nothing in the front, nothing in the back. And we all know how many times Lavan took advantage of Yaakov Avinu. According to what we learn, over 100 times Lavan changed the rules with Yaakov Avinu. And we need to know one thing. When Yaakov came to the house of Lavan, the mazal of Lavan changed. The mazal of Lavan changed. Up to this moment, Lavan didn't have much wealth. That's why he was desperate for money. Okay? And up to this moment, Lavan only had daughters, not boys. Once Yaakov Avinu lived in the house of Lavan, for how many years? Anybody remembers? How many years? No, a bit more. Less. Bekitsur, 20 years. Bekitsur, 20 years. 14 was the years that he did not sleep, was in the yeshiva of Shem Ba'ever. He was running away from his brother Esav, and Esav knew that as long as his parents are alive, and as long as Yaakov Avinu is learning Torah, he became the untouchable. Now, fast forward. He lives in the house of Lavan. I ask you a question. What do you think was the lifestyle in the house of Lavan? Not good at all. Obviously detrimental from a spiritual level, and the Torah tells us clearly in Sefer Bereshit how Lavan tried to influence the children of Yaakov Avinu. And he says, okay, you're an old-fashioned guy, you're following the laws of your father, your grandfather, but the kids, let them play with the internet. You know, what's a big deal? Technology is important. It's important, but dangerous too. It's a catch-22, like a car, like a weapon, like anything in life. If it's used properly, it's good, it's beneficial. But if it's abused or misused, God forbid, could be very dangerous at many levels. Now Yaakov Avinu is getting ready to go back to Israel. What message does he send to his brother Esav? He says to him, Im Lavan garti. I lived in the house of Lavan. Rashi says, Betariak mizvot shamarti. I was able to keep the 613 commandments. What is the message that Yaakov says to Esav? Esav, if you believed because I spent time 20 years in the house of Lavan, so my defense as a Jew is lower, and then I'm going to spend time with you, I'm happy to tell you that I was able to remain faithful and holy to our commandments like the same way that you met me when we were children. So Yaakov Avinu, in a way, what does it teach us? Survival. We are all survivors. We are all survivors. And I'm not talking about Holocaust or Inquisition. I'm talking about surviving as a Yehudi in the 21st century is not easy.
Not easy.
Regretfully, the biggest challenge that the Jewish people have today is assimilation. So how do we combat assimilation? Besides talking to the people involved in that regretful situation in life, but you know how we minimize assimilation? By keeping our foundation alive and well. By investing in the beautiful children. Look how many kids are here eating in the sukkah, listening to the Torah class. You are the future, as the song says. You are the world, right? Or we are the world, right? Okay, that was before your days. Okay. Going back, the 80s, I think, right? But you are the future. Who says this? Moshe Rabbeinu. Remember the famous moment that when the Torah was about to be given, God asked Moshe Rabbeinu, who is going to guarantee that the Torah will be fulfilled and observed through the future generations? Moshe says, I'll guarantee it. So God asked, and what's going to happen when you're going to leave the world? We're going to have more Nevi'im. And what's going to be after the no more Nevi'im? Finally, Moshe Rabbeinu went back and forth, and he says to God the three magic words, Banenu, Arevim, Ba'adenu. Our children are the guarantee of the Torah. So every time we send the kid to Talmud Torah, every time we bring the child to the knis, every time we go to a Torah class and we do the things that we're supposed to do, that has been doing for generations and generations, we are guaranteeing the future of Am Israel. But there is one formula only, Torah and Mitzvot. Assimilation means completely the opposite. No Torah and no Mitzvot. And as the Torah and Mitzvot regretfully starts disappearing from the life of a Jew, so the Jew then doesn't see a difference between a Jew and a Gentile. And that's what we say every day in our morning prayers. Asher b'harbanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Hashem noten haTorah. Interesting that when we say this blessing, we don't say Natan haTorah. He gave us the Torah. We say Noten haTorah. He's giving us the Torah. I ask you a question. How many years ago was the celebration of Shavuot? Give or take, 3,340 years ago. 41 years, actually 42 years ago. 32, I think, 32, 42, something like that. And yet survive. And what do we say? Noten. Because every time a Jew wakes up in the morning, goes to the knis, prays, or the younger crowd goes to learn Torah, we are expanding the life of the Jewish people. And even though Am Israel is scattered and spread all over, but you know what? It's like the human body. I ask you a question. What happens if a person has a headache? What do you do? What do you take? Tylenol? Now, where do you take, how do you take the Tylenol? You take a pill. And where the Tylenol goes? But what about, is your headache? So how does it work? Why don't you rub the Tylenol on your forehead? Right? The bloodstream. Right? He gave an excellent answer. Hashem created the human body in such a way that even though that I am taking a Tylenol or an Advil, I don't want Advil to be unhappy, we only spoke about Tylenol, okay? Ibuprofen, Advil, generic, I don't know who is watching this class. We have a few comedians also. That's why you don't see the name of the mic, he didn't pay advertisement fee. This is free advertisement worldwide. How many people we have watching? From all over. Plenty, all over. The other day we have from Vietnam, Australia, right? The islands, Orlando, New York, Colorado, Los Angeles, South America, whatever, Baruch Hashem. That's the beauty of technology. But regretfully, technology also can be dangerous. That's why today the schools and the synagogues, they offering a filter. For what purpose? A filter is a fence of spiritual protection. But let's go back to Yaakov Avinu. What Yaakov Avinu represents? Continuity in our dedication to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the message of Pesach. This is the message of Shavuot. And this is the message of the celebration of Sukkot, which is obviously connected with Yaakov Avinu, alav shalom. Let me see if there is anything else to add about the life of Yaakov Avinu. I'm sure there is plenty. Aha. I found something that is the closing statement. Thank you. I ask you a question. Is Yaakov Avinu alive or dead?
He's alive.
Alive. Hi. Okay, you know the answer because you understand the question. But where do we learn that Yaakov Avinu is alive? So the Gemara tells us in Masechet Ta'anit, and I read it, Amar Rabbi Yohanan, Yaakov Avinu lo met. Yaakov Avinu did not die. As the Gemara, but hold on. The Torah tells us clearly in the Humash that the Egyptians mourn the passing of Yaakov Avinu. And the sons of Yaakov carried the remains of Yaakov to Israel. And Yaakov Avinu is buried in Me'arat HaMachpelah. So how come you say that Yaakov Avinu is not dead? So comes the pasuk and it says, a beautiful pasuk of Irmiyah HaNavi that says, Ve'ata al tira abdi Yaakov neum Hashem. God says through Irmiyah HaNavi, my servant Yaakov, don't be afraid. Ki hineni moshiacha merachok. I'm redeeming you from far. Be'ed zaracha, and your children me'eres shibyan. I'm rescuing your children from the land of captivity. What does it mean, the land of captivity? No, galut, exile. We are in exile. We need to know this, that how holy and beautiful the Sukkah is, but where is the true home of a Yehudi? Israel. And sooner or later, we all are going to leave galut. So the Navi guarantees, but the Pasuk guarantees the following. Ma zar'o b'chaim, af hu b'chaim. You know how Yaakov Avinu is alive? Yaakov Avinu lives through us. Every one of us that is here and was here before, prays in the minyanim, lives as a Jew, observes the mitzvot, observes the holidays, the Shabbat, and the celebrations, and everything that we do as a way of life, we are keeping the spirit of Yaakov Avinu being spiritually alive, and that is the secret of the survival of Am Israel. If I am allowed to add one more thing with your permission.
I'll give you, okay.
Thank you. I wasn't asking, but okay. Thank you. I'd like to add one more thing. Yaakov Avinu, alav shalom, the Pasuk tells us that he built Sukkot. What is a Sukkah? A Sukkah is a temporary dwelling, very fragile. I'm not sure if you follow the news, but in Israel, there were hundreds of Sukkot that were destroyed over the holiday. Massive rains, hurricane winds, an unbelievable disaster that happened. Florida is not a stranger to hurricanes and strong winds, so we hope and pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He has mercy upon every Jew all over the world. And you want to send wind and rain, send them when we are not in the Sukkah. When everybody is at home, this way we are able to celebrate the holiday better. But guess what? What the Sukkah represents? The Sukkah represents Hashem's protection. That even though we may be in a very fragile Sukkah, what do we have? Lattice, the bamboo, the reed, we have the schach, and stop counting. That's all we have. And yet, we leave the comfort zone of our home, the comfort of the knis, and we come into the Sukkah. Yaakov Avinu built Sukkot. You know, they ask an interesting question. There was a wealthy fellow that one day was invited to the house of the Hafetz Haim. And when he came to the house of the Hafetz Haim, he sees that the Hafetz Haim barely had any furniture. Minimal, simple, minimal. And the fellow asked the Hafetz Haim, "Excuse me, Rabbi, where is your furniture?" So the Hafetz Haim asked this fellow, "Where is your furniture?" So the fellow says, "Rabbi, I am traveling now, but if you come to my home, you're going to see the furniture." The Hafetz Haim says, "I'm also traveling in this world. I'm here a temporary dwelling, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years. I invest in the future." So what does Yaakov Avinu teaches us? Our rabbis tell us that Yaakov Avinu doesn't make materialism the main name of life, which is a problem for some people. Some people become so materialistic and so desperate for materialism that they miss the entire point and purpose. What is the life? I'm not telling you that I'm a holy man. We all need materialism, right? How do you pay for tuition? How do you pay for charity? How do you build the sukkah? Obviously, we need money in order to live. But if a person, God forbid, makes materialism the main goal in life, and then the person allows themselves to do things and act in ways which are not kosher, which are not proper, to hurt people in business and to steal from business just to satisfy their desires and materialistic needs, this goes against the entire principle of the sukkah. And this is one of the beautiful lessons that Yaakov Avinu teaches us. As the Baal Shem Tov says, a Jew mission is to take the material aspect of life and to bring a sense of godliness into life, which is not difficult. It is not difficult at all. Let's say I have a cell phone, right? So I need to make sure of two things. Number one, that I don't cross lines. Number two, that on Shabbat and Yom Tov, I put it away. I don't touch it. Simple. I have money. I make money. Everybody hopefully makes money. Okay? But then I need to think how I'm going to use my money. What is my priority? I'm going into business. Yes, but the Torah tells you, go into business, treat employees properly, pay salaries on time, don't hurt people in the world of business. Faddal, you want to go to work? Go to work. But first, go to pray. Put on talet and tefillin. You want to buy an apartment, as we said before. Where is the knis? Find the synagogue. In what floor is the apartment? Are you going to be able to go up and down on Shabbat if there is no Shabbat elevator? All these things a person must think before they make a decision. You bought a suit for the holiday. First thing, what do? Hazak Baruch. Don't look at the label of the suit. Look at the label of the Sha'atnes. In the olden days, people used to touch the suit, say, psst. Now they check the label of the suit. We all became labels, as I said the other day. But the most important label in a suit is to be Sha'atnes free. Even a suit that is a garment, there is a godly element in life. So if a person looks for Hashem, if a person looks for God, God can be found. And we'll finish this class with a beautiful pasuk from Shlomo HaMelech that says, Bechol derachecha da'ehu. In every step of life, you can find God. Even you're going to date someone, right? You're going to marry someone, right? Be'ezat Hashem. What is the first thing you look besides being Jewish? Do we share the same ideals? Because many times they tell you, no, after we get married, she's going to change.
No change.
Regretfully, statistic tells us that people don't change unless they have it in their true mind to make a positive change. So the first thing before you go out is what? Okay, these are the non-negotiable terms of my future wife. I'm not talking about me. I'm happily married, Baruch Hashem. Now, my wife may listen to the class. God forbid, then I'm going to have Shalom Bayit issues. Sweetheart, I love you. You may be watching or listening. But what do? I need the basic components. Kashrut, mikveh, Shabbat, holidays. If you don't have that, you got to think twice. Why? Because your wife becomes your partner. And regretfully today in our society, the word partner means something completely forbidden. God forbid. This is the society that we live in. But the truth of the matter is, the Pasuk says concerning marriage, Bedabak beishto behayu lebasar ehad. The whole idea of marriage, the Torah says, husband and wife cling to each other and they become a single unit.
One person.
Two halves become one whole. But for the partnership to work properly, you need to have an equal partner. And that's why it's imperative, before a person starts dating and becomes emotionally involved, you need to make sure that we do our homework in advance. Same thing, a person is going to relocate to live to a different city. And I tell you this from personal experience, as a rabbi and as an individual, that before you move, you need to do your homework. Where I'm coming to, is there a synagogue? Is there a mikveh? Is there a rabbi available? Is there a place that I can learn Torah? Is there a place that I can send the kids to the Kitab, to the Talmud Torah? If none of the above is found, you cannot live in that city. That's simple. If none of the above is found, you need to find a different city, or you need to find a different neighborhood that is able to suit the needs that a Jew needs to survive. We cannot make it by our own. The Pasuk says, Ish et re'ehu ya'azoru. I help you, you help me, you help him, he helps you. And that's the idea of a minyan, that's the idea of a community, and that's the idea of what we try to do every day of the year. To pray nicely, to learn Torah, to have good camaraderie among people, because having Yehudim friends, having Jewish friends is essential, is imperative. Cannot have Goyim friends. You can have acquaintances, maybe from the world of business. But a Goy invites you to a restaurant, you say, I only eat in a kosher place. That's simple. That's something that we do. Why? Because going to a non-kosher restaurant, to begin with, is a problem for a Jew. It's marita ayin, and nisyonot, etc. Tell the Gentile, I only eat in kosher restaurants, faddal. On me, I'll take you to a nice place. I'll finish with a story that there was a situation like this, that a fellow who was looking for a position, he wasn't working for 6 months, and suddenly a Gentile calls him, I heard you're looking for a job, let's meet in a non-kosher restaurant. This young man says to him, I would love to meet you, but regretfully I don't step into a non-kosher restaurant because I only eat kasher, and according to our Bible, we cannot. So this guy was so impressed that he invited a Jewish friend to eat with a kosher restaurant. And then the young man got the position. And they asked him afterwards, the guy, what made him give you the position? He says his self-control and discipline, that even though he wasn't working for 6 months, and he could have put a baseball cap, and he could have justified and give you every reason of the book. Why is it permissible? He says, you know what? I don't negotiate my neshama. The body can be negotiated, but the neshama doesn't get a negotiation. We have the zechut of Abraham, the zechut of Ishaq, the zechut of Yaakov Avinu. So Be'ezat Hashem, tomorrow we'll continue discussing the life of Moshe Rabbeinu. Tonight is the 4th Ushpizin of Moshe Be'ezat Hashem. So here is on that the zechut of the Ushpizin, Yagena Alenu, may shield upon us, I may bless everyone accordingly. Amen. Baruch Adonai